Welcome to Gaia's Love, a podcast of brief messages to help humanity bridge the gap to the new earth. My name is Vivienne Gerard. It is my delight to be a scribe for consciousness today, sharing the wisdom that flows through from Source. Here we go. Episode 24. It is a Monday morning here in Cincinnati, and we have transitioned energetically, astrologically, from the sign of Cancer into the sign of Leo, which is a warm, sunny, shiny, let's have some fun and play and enjoy connecting and being visible and bringing our gifts forward kind of energy. Yeah. When I was running this morning, I was thinking about the transition and remembering what I was sharing last week. Like, yes, I'll meet you back on Monday morning in the sun sign of Leo and we'll feel great. And what I realized is the transition is still happening energetically. The word that came forward when I was running and I was looking at the sky, and there were these beautiful clouds with just a little hint of the oranges and reds of the morning sun coming up. It's very cloudy here today, so you could just barely see the sunlight around the edges of the clouds. And the word that I heard so clearly was emerging. Yeah, feel the vibration of that word. Emerging from the darkness into the light, emerging from the emotions into the calm, expansive warmth of not needing to sit in all the emotional gunk. The transition feels like a crab crawling out of the hole in the sand, as we described it on Friday. Crawling out and emerging into the light, and then just sort of getting a sense of what's happening. What's happening here today? So take a breath. Allow yourself to feel where you are in that process. Everything is an energetic match, so if you're listening to this, there is a match in the feeling of crawling out of a hole, perhaps, into the sunlight. I meditated for a few minutes before starting this podcast, and I was reminded of the hosta plant. I don't know if that's something everyone is familiar with, so you're going to get a little bit of a gardening lesson today. Allow it to be a metaphor, and whatever wisdom or nuggets are meant to land for you, they will. So the story of the hosta plant, it is a beautiful green perennial, which means it comes back every year. And there are all different varieties. Some of them are really light white with light green. Some are really dark green. Some are kind of a blue green. There's a lime green. They're all different shades and colors. And the beauty of the hosta plant here in our area in Cincinnati is that they grow in the shade. We have a lot of trees in Cincinnati. Most of the city is built on hills with lots of trees everywhere. And so plants that will grow in the shade are really important, or else you're not going to have much of a garden. But they also do well in the sun, and they grow really fast. They multiply very quickly, so you can split them, as it's called, and then put them in other parts of the garden. The magic of the hosta plant, and this is the image that I'm hoping will offer some guidance as we emerge. When we have winters here, at least in Cincinnati, it snows and the ground gets frozen. So the hosta plant disappears, it dies. this year's plant will be gone. You won't see it in January. You won't see it in February. There's no bush that remains above the ground. It just disappears. So a garden that was full now looks like it's just brown dirt. And then somewhere, depending on how cold the winter is, somewhere around March or April, you'll start to see these little sprouts coming up out of the ground where nothing was there before. Just little, tiny little things that poke up. And then it almost looks like it happens overnight. One day, you just suddenly see there's this bush, there's this plant that has a full growth, and it's maybe, I don't know, about a foot in circumference. Just suddenly it pops up. So by the end of April, beginning of May, you can see that there's a plant growing there. Within another month, so by the end of May, the beginning of June, if the plants have been there for a long time and they're emerging out into the light and they're getting the nutrients and the water that they need, that little plant that was 1 foot can easily grow to 2 feet wide. And it's full of all these beautiful big green leaves. Some of them are wider than the size of my hand or 2 hands. And then as you're watching, by June, it's starting to sprout flowers. It has these tall stems that come out and these little white flowers that start to pop. Some of them are purple. The reason I bring it up today is because the first variety that we have already had their flower, they already bloomed, and we cut the stems of the flowers off. In the middle of July, the hottest month of the year here in Cincinnati, another batch of the hostas are just starting to flower. They're huge. They're probably the biggest hosta plants we have, maybe 2 feet around. And they have these gorgeous stems that are still closed like a bud. Super hot July, and it's still a closed flower. And so I have been taking pictures as I do my runs in the morning or my walks, and those are the pictures that I use for all of the Gaia's Love podcasts. They're pictures I've taken myself. And so I took one just, I think Friday, of this bud, this hosta bud just starting to come open. You can barely see that it might have a flower inside of it. It's emerging. It's emerging. And 2-3 months ago, well, what is July? June, July. 3-4 months ago, there wasn't even a plant there. You would never have known that that flower was even a potential possibility. But the plant has been growing and the flower has had space, and now it's ready to bloom. It's just ready to bloom at the beginning of this Leo season as we wrap up July and move into August, where the gardens are starting to get a little dry and wilted. The hosta plants are just bearing their fruit for us. Isn't that incredible? Nature, she has her own cycles. And we need to trust that and then align with that. So the beauty also of this example, when I was sitting in meditation, I could feel the match to our physical bodies and our engagement with other people. So the hosta plant, because it grows so fast and because it's beautiful and I'm sure very tasty to the deer love to eat them. And for much of my gardening history, I have battled with the deer, and they always win because I've never figured out a good mix of something to protect the plants that doesn't smell or that doesn't have organic materials that don't hurt the plants and don't hurt any of the animals. Well, we finally discovered the secret mix, which I'm happy to share if anybody wants to find it. It's amazing, and it's just very basic ingredients we mix together and we spray. So as the space holder for our garden, we created the space to grow the plants, we nourish the plants with water, and we protect these plants with this deer repellent spray. As the space holder, my husband and I walk around and we spray the garden with this mix of ingredients, and the smell repels the deer, and so the deer go eat all the other bushes in our forest instead of the ones that we want to enjoy because they're so beautiful. So for many years I haven't been able to see that flower emerging in the middle of July. because the deer have eaten all of the plant before I could ever even see that there might be a flower. And I would get so angry because the plants were gone, not even knowing there was a flower I would have seen also. So as the space holder, we protect our garden. We don't get angry at the deer for eating it or try to hurt the deer. We just protect our space. And in that protected space, these plants can flourish. They can create the most beautiful flowers that we didn't even know were possible. It is the same for us with our physical bodies, with our energy systems. As we nourish our bodies, as we protect our bodies, as we do meditation work and clearing work, and we trust the ways that our body wants to rest and to heal, as we protect our space, not to be angry at others who want to take our energy from us. I mean, we have great energy. Why wouldn't they? It's just like the deer. Why wouldn't the deer eat the plant? It's juicy and yummy. Why wouldn't other people want to absorb our joy or, take from us when we're offering to give them whatever they need, to the point where we deplete ourselves? We're just co-creating, coexisting. When we become aware, when we protect our space, meaning we have creations to birth, we have light and love emerging from us that is meant to be broadcast to the world, not to be depleted, but just to be in its beauty, being shared with humanity. When we protect our space so that we can have the room and the life force to emerge, to bring new out into existence, everybody benefits from that. The deer find other food. Everyone survives. We are just able to nurture our own emerging beauty. And that beauty is meant to be shared with the world. Just like these beautiful hosta plants, they're meant to keep growing and keep flourishing and bringing beauty for all of us who are lucky enough to see it. So I protect the hosta plants. I nourish them. I celebrate when they start to flower, and I share it with the world. And that beauty expands. And again, all of that is going to dissolve, or it's not the word. As the season continues and we move into fall, the plant is going to go back into the next cycle of its growth, right? It's going to start dying, and it's going to go into the earth, and it's going to nourish the earth as it gestates over winter, and the plant will disappear, and I won't even remember that there's a flower. And then next April, May, poof, it's going to pop back up out of the ground, and another cycle of beauty will continue. So yeah, surrender to the process that's so natural. Protect your space. Cherish and celebrate the beauty when you see it. All of that is emerging right now. So flow with that energy. Emerge. Thank you for tuning in to today's vibration. Let's take this message of pure love out into all of our communities and continue expanding love here on Gaia. So much love from my heart to yours.